is Professor Miller, and I am here today to welcome you to Transcendentalism. This is an advanced literature course at Stern College for Women, and I am a professor there. I've been teaching at Stern for 12 years. Some of you may already know me, and I'm really looking forward to this spring class. I realize a lot of us are probably tired of the Zoom classes, but I really think this is going to be a special one. Transcendentalism, the last time I taught it, was the very favorite literature course I've ever taught at Stern. I had such a great time teaching it, and the students seemed to really like it. And I was so excited about it that I noted to myself, okay, I want to teach that class again soon, and I want to always teach it advanced, the same way it was before. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why it's advanced, what it means to have an advanced class. I'm going to briefly go over the syllabus, not the whole thing because we'll cover some of that on day one, but I want to highlight a few things for you before the class starts. There's a couple things you need to know even before it starts, especially since sometimes people enroll in this class not necessarily knowing what to expect. I've even had students enroll in this class last time who didn't know it was an advanced class or what the requirements for that were. So I'm going to go over that stuff really briefly. And I'll try to keep this video short. At the end, I'll talk about what Transcendentalism is, and I'll offer what I hope are some interesting questions about it to get you stimulated and thinking about this classic movement in American philosophy and literature. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right in. So the first thing I need to show you, just in case you haven't learned this yet about these recording videos, is how to use the viewing app. So the screen that you're looking at my face on right now can be changed, can be manipulated. If you take your mouse and linger in the upper right corner of the screen, you'll see a couple options pop up. One of them looks like two arrows going like this. If you click on that, that switches the viewpoint for the video. Clicking on it switches the background with the foreground. So you can either make my face small and in the background in the corner with the instead in the foreground having whatever's on my screen, or you can have my face in the foreground and whatever's on my screen in the background. So shortly, when I go over the syllabus, I just loaded it up there, you're going to want to have the syllabus in the foreground while I go over that. And this will also help you to switch viewpoints, for example, when I'm doing PowerPoint slideshows. Now, this lecture is not a PowerPoint slideshow. It's not even really a lecture. It's just an introduction. But sometimes in class I do PowerPoint lectures, and for those you'll want to know how to switch the viewpoint so that you can read the text on my screen in the PowerPoint slides. Below that switch icon, there's a few rectangular icons. Those change the way my face and the screen look. So you can make them equally sized side by side, or you can make one small and one large, etc. Go ahead and play around with those and become familiar with them if you're not already. So with that in mind, why don't we go ahead and talk about some of the essential parts of the syllabus. I want to make sure everybody's on board in the right class for you. First of all, again, this is an advanced class. If you're an English major, and you probably are if you're here taking this class, it fulfills your advanced class requirement, which you need in order to graduate. As an advanced class, however, it does have a prerequisite, an additional prerequisite besides composition, which is the prerequisite for all literature classes at Stern. Advanced courses, in addition to taking composition, you also have to have taken at least one other literature course. Alternately, you can have gotten a full A in your composition course, in English 1100 or 1200H. So if you either got a full A in 1100 or 1200H, or if you got whatever grade and have since then taken a literature course, then you are eligible to take this class. My understanding is that the registrar does not filter out people who aren't eligible to take advanced classes because sometimes they show up people not knowing that they are advanced. So I'm telling you now so that if you do not want to be in an advanced literature course, you can drop it and find a course that's more appropriate for you. Now, that said, I hope you don't drop it just yet if you do find yourself in that situation. If you're not an English major and you don't need the advanced course, I really want you to consider sticking around with me, because this is really a pretty special course. It's one of the only courses in the English department, at least, and I think it might be one of the only courses at Stern where we engage in what's known as comparative religion, where we compare religious ideas, and that can lead to some pretty exciting conversations at this school. I found the last time I taught this that when students study other religions besides your own, it's sometimes easier to see them in a kind of objective light. It's hard to see the faiths that we're born into from any other perspective but the passionate, engaged one that we have with them. But when you study another religion, it gives you more of an historical viewpoint on it. And that led to some really great conversations, and I think it also can lead to some great insights about your own faith, about your own ideas. Not challenges to your faith, that's not what I'm talking about, but just, well, it's kind of like you can't fully know something until you've had something to compare it to. That's how the mind works. We know things by comparing them. If all we ever knew was one novel, we would never know if it was great or terrible because we wouldn't have anything, again, to compare it to. So comparative religion is an important part of this course. Because this is a moment in American history when American Protestantism became kind of radical and underwent a major transformation. Now, since then, it's transformed many more times. But at this period, in the 1840s and 1850s, was a time when many American intellectuals, almost all of whom were Protestant Christians, were questioning the basis of what they had been taught and wondering what more might be out there. And that questioning is the kind of philosophical framework for this class. That's the foundation from which Transcendentalism emerged. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so let's get back to the syllabus here. Okay, just the highlights. Not going to go through all of it because we'll do that on day one. But I want you to know about how this course will work in terms of our meeting times and our Zoom schedules. I do not want you all to become burned out on Zoom. I want our conversations to remain fresh and lively. To that end, I will be limiting all of our classes to about 45, maybe 50 minutes each. I found that that's just about the limit that students can pay attention to sometimes challenging subject matter like this course has. So, good news, you will not be kept for the entire duration of the class on each day. So instead of it being an hour and 15 minutes, it'll be 50 minutes or maybe even a little less on some days. To make up the difference for the 25 minutes, since you're not going to be in class, we'll be doing online forums, which are informal written discussions between us, amongst us, about the course material. And I'll also be recording lecture videos like this one that cover course materials that are, I'll have about almost one a week, not quite one per week. And between those lecture videos, usually 15, 20 minutes, and the forums, that makes up the difference between the 50 minutes that we spend in class and the hour and 15 minutes that you normally spend in a regular course at Stern. So I hope that helps you out. I know especially for a course like this one that's late in the day, it can be really hard to pay attention for prolonged periods of time. So we've made that change. What else should you know that's just especially important about this? Well, I guess one thing you should know is how we're graded. So let's go ahead and skip ahead to that, and then I'll come back to the books. So in this course, you're going to be graded mostly on your writing. So your final grade then will be based on various kinds of writing, a short oral presentation given over Zoom, and some timed open book quizzes designed to reward students who do the reading. These quizzes are not hard. They're open book. They're not meant to be particularly challenging so long as you're up with the reading. Now, if you've fallen behind the reading and you try to kind of fake it, or if you try to look up the material for the quizzes as you go, I think you'll find that they're almost impossible. But for people who have done the reading, this should be some relatively easy high grades. That's been my experience with these kinds of quizzes. I don't normally do quizzes in a regular classroom But I have found that with Zoom, these quizzes are a good incentive to keep people caught up with the readings, and the conversations in class seem to go better with them. Those are worth 18% of your grade. There's 3 of them for 6% each. You'll also be graded over 4 2 to 3 page short informal writing assignments. These will be topical and they'll be focused, but they do not need to be thesis-driven papers like a formal term paper for college. And each of those 4 short papers is worth 6%. There'll also be online forums. There'll be 2 online forums, which are sort of like blogs or discussion groups, and they'll be ongoing. They'll start. Well, the first one will start a couple weeks into the class. It'll last till the class is about halfway through. Then the next one will start, and that will last till the course is over. And as long as those are up, they're open for conversation. And the more you contribute, the better your grade will be. I often have students who seem like they wish they could be graded on effort rather than product. Sometimes when students aren't totally happy with their grade, they're like, hey, why did I get this B+? Why did I get this A- instead of the A? And a lot of the time, it's because the paper, usually it's the paper, wasn't quite up to the full A quality. And the student often says, well, I tried really hard. Well, this is one area where trying hard will pay off for you. That is the forums. More words are better than less, so people that contribute a lot, who check in a lot, and write a lot will be rewarded. In fact, I can almost guarantee you that if you check into the forums for the 25 minutes that our class has left over after the 50 minutes are over, if you were to, let's say our class ends after 50 minutes, if you were to spend the next 25 minutes writing in the forums, and if you were to do that every week, there's almost no way that you couldn't get a full A, as long as you're writing about, stuff for the class. You can't just write about random things. But as long as you're focused and you're writing about course assignments, writing a lot will pay off for you in the forums. So this is your chance for effort to count. There'll also be a thesis-driven formal research paper of about 8 to 10 pages. That's the hallmark of an advanced course. My students sometimes ask me, what's the difference between an advanced course and an intro course? And in terms of the workload, the biggest difference is a term paper, an 8 to 10 page formal paper with a research component. To make this easier for you, I will be providing you with a lot of help. This is a small class. At the time when I am creating this video, there are only 5 students. So that means I'll be able to give you a lot of help on these final papers, and we'll be able to meet as often as you need to talk about your ideas. I'll be able to help you make sure your thesis is on track. I can even take a look at sections of it to make sure that you're on track. Now, I can't read the whole thing and provide you comments like I do in composition, but there will be a lot of what teachers call scaffolding for this assignment, support networks, things there to help you get the job done. So that plus an online Zoom presentation for 8% makes up your grade. You can see all that listed on the syllabus here, and if you want to check out the handout for the final paper, that's already available to you. You can click on that link, and that takes you to the final paper handout for Transcendentalism. Now, I will be emailing you. If you haven't received it already, you should have gotten, or you will soon get, a paper copy, a Word copy of the syllabus that you can print out. I wanted you to have that before the class started, for example, so that you can order the books. However, once the class starts, you should be using this online syllabus available through Canvas when you click on either the syllabus link or the home page here. And this is it, and it contains all the assignments and everything you need to know for the class. The syllabus is essentially our contract between each other. I will stick with this. You need to stick with this. This determines how you'll be graded and how the course will proceed. But you're in an advanced class. You probably know this already. I just will remind you that I'm not going to be announcing each day's assignments at the end of each class. I'm counting on you being able to keep up, look these assignments up yourself, as is appropriate for an advanced college class. So you will be responsible for checking with the assignment schedule on the syllabus and making sure that you have done all the assignments listed under each given day. All right? I'll just say a couple quick things about the syllabus more here. I wanted to talk about emails. This is very important. The best way to contact me is at my Gmail address listed right here, matt.w.miller@gmail.com. I'm also available for one-on-one appointments via Zoom, which I don't have regular office hours since it's Zoom and there's no office. But I'm pretty flexible in terms of being able to make appointments for you to help you with whatever's on your mind for the class. Please do not email me with questions that can be answered simply by checking the syllabus, the assignment handout, or through a quick Google search. Try to only ask real questions. Now, that said, I love helping my students, and if you have those questions, you shouldn't hesitate to ask. If you email me at the Gmail address, you will hear from me quickest. If you email me at my YU address, that is the one that ends with yu.edu, you will still eventually hear from me, but it might get slowed down because I do not check that email address as frequently as my Gmail email address. The one time that you should avoid using that Gmail address is if you want to talk about your grade. If you want to talk about something sensitive and private like a grade issue, then you need to use either my YU email, or you can click on inbox here on the left in Canvas. You see that link on the far left. And here you can write emails both to myself and to other people in the class. So if you ever needed to reach out to somebody in class, for example, you wanted to try to see if they had a copy of, the lecture notes for that day's Zoom session, you can find those people through this link. Inbox, and you select the course here. And once you've selected the course, you can, here it is, then you can go over here and select compose a new message, and you can start to type my name, or you see Matt Miller, or you can also click on here and you can email everybody at once that way. So this is, only use this utility for private emails like grade stuff. Otherwise, just shoot me an email at my Gmail address. One other thing about emails, for the duration of this course, I do need for you to frequently check your YU email account. You also need to check announcements for the class. I send a lot of announcements. I'm a big emailer, especially with an online course. It's essential that you're in touch with those emails. And I can only use the YU address for you because I'm only allowed to send mass emails out to the whole class for security reasons, either to the YU email address or as an announcement in Canvas. Okay? So check your announcements frequently and check your YU email address frequently. I'm going to leave it at that in terms of, one other thing, not quite leave it at that. I need you to order the books. That's probably the most important thing. So here it is. These are the books right here. And, wrong class. Hold on. Let me switch to Transcendentalism. There we go. So here are the books right here. You'll notice that it's pretty inexpensive for a literature course. The total comes to about $63. You know, the average cost of college books now has gotten up to $150 per class. I always keep it under $100, and I try to keep it lower than that. Where free online readings are available, I have supplied them. But these three books that are, these two books, which are required to buy, are indeed required. You cannot take this course without ordering these two books listed under the required to buy section. Online readings, obviously those are free. You just need to click on those. These others that are recommended are great books. I hope you buy one or all of those if you want, because they will help you with the course. But they're also available on reserve at the library. So the only two that you really need, because you'll be using them so often, and because some of the readings I've assigned in the class are only available in these books, are these two books right here. So I need you to order those now. In fact, why not just pause this and actually just go ahead and, like I said, order them right this minute. And to do that, I need you to cut and paste this ISBN number here, right? So you see that 13-digit number after ISBN right there? So take the number after that, copy and paste that into a Google search like this. And once you hit return, you'll see that it takes you right to the book you need. You can get it through various different online booksellers. There's Amazon. And there it is. So $20 for one of our textbooks. The other one's even cheaper. The other one's only, one is, that's 20, I guess. I listed it as 13. I guess the price went up a little bit on that one. Anyways, you get the idea. Please order those books now. I think that is now, in fact, all we need for the syllabus for now. And I want to end this lecture video by talking to you a little bit about Transcendentalism, about the intellectual content of the course. So Transcendentalism, I think, is really a fascinating period to study. And I'm going to go over some reasons why I think you should be excited about this class and why we should study Transcendentalism. Why study it? Why study this 160-plus-year-old philosophical and artistic movement? Well, for one, Transcendentalism was America's first and arguably only significant philosophical movement. Prior to Transcendentalism, American intellectuals were just copycats of the Europeans. But with Transcendentalism and the emergence of Ralph Waldo Emerson and his philosophy, America had its own philosophy. Finally, after many decades, this new country had a philosopher suitable to its size and scope and intensity. We'll be reading a lot of Emerson in this class. He's just a fantastic prose writer, and his essays are some of the most beautiful essays I've ever written. So again, I'll return to that question, why study Transcendentalism? Well, it's not just the philosophy. Transcendentalism was also America's first counterculture, its first rebel movement. It was a religious counterculture, and most of the people who rebelled against the dominant Protestant faith remained within Christianity and remained people of faith. They weren't atheists, but they were religious radicals. They had new ideas about divinity, about grace, about providence, about blessings, about prayer. And they wanted to share these with young people. And they thought that if they did, they could start a revolution. Why study Transcendentalism? Well, it led to some of the greatest art and literature we have ever known. Maybe even more important than Transcendentalism's own, proper framework of ideas and writings is the stuff that came after. Transcendentalism produced great philosophy, but it's the post-transcendentalists like Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson who produced some of the most magnificent literature this country's ever seen. Why study Transcendentalism? Well, it also paved the way for all kinds of radical changes in American society. As the first counterculture, like I mentioned, this philosophical movement, it got under people's skin. It left its mark. And even today, we're still processing some ideas from Transcendentalism, especially in the field of education. Why study Transcendentalism? Well, it was also an amazingly lively and interesting period in history with a whole host of colorful characters and intense happenings. Many dramatic, sometimes tragic, sometimes happy events happened during these decades. So another reason to study it is because it's just an intrinsically interesting period in American history. Why study Transcendentalism? It also shows us a new way of looking at nature. If you were taught Transcendentalism at all in high school, which some people still are, you probably were taught that it's all about nature, nature poetry, and a love for nature. That's a good start. That's true. That's one of the many things Transcendentalism is. And when you spend enough time with these Transcendentalist writings, it kind of rubs off on you, and it gives you a new perspective on the natural world. Last time I taught this class, I had a couple different students tell me that they were having more intense experiences in nature, on nature walks and hikes and so on. Finally, why study Transcendentalism? It might just help you find your creative voice. You wouldn't be the first. Transcendentalism has helped many, many poets and fiction writers discover their best writing self, and it's led to some of the greatest writing we've ever known. What is Transcendentalism? That's a harder question than why study it. What is Transcendentalism is a question we'll be addressing for the remainder of this class. That's a semester-long question that we'll be exploring. We'll also look at what caused it and so on. But if you want to just kind of like nutshell version of what caused Transcendentalism, I think it's interesting to note that while scholars usually look at Transcendentalism in terms of a genesis of ideas, there are other possibilities for causes for Transcendentalism. For example, there is the physical environment of these people that these early Americans found themselves in. This natural world in the United States was untamed. It was wild. It wasn't all combed and groomed into farms and industry like Europe was. In the 1840s and 50s, when the most important transcendentalist works were written, very little of the United States had even been trampled. Very little of it had ever been walked upon. Most of it was totally unexplored wilderness. And this presence of wilderness and Native Americans still ruled in many parts of the United States when Transcendentalism was in its heyday. The threat of Native Americans, the threat and fear of the unknown that, the deep dark woods, so to speak, brought upon these people gives Transcendentalism a dark edge. It's mostly an upbeat movement, but the constant threat that many people in the United States at this time lived under makes Transcendentalism a little bit tougher minded of a philosophical movement than its European counterpart, Romanticism. There is a presence of Native Americans with their own distinctive religions present in Transcendentalism. The Transcendentalists were people that opened their minds to other religions and other faiths. Not that they stopped believing in their own faith, but they were interested in learning about other faiths. And the Native American faiths were first appreciated by this group of people. Another major cause for Transcendentalism was slavery, that grave sin of our nation. It was still legal when Transcendentalism was in its peak. And the presence of legal slavery in the South inspired a lot of radicalism among Transcendentalists, and it made the movement very forward-thinking and progressive. Even the sons and daughters of Puritans sometimes want to have a good time. And Transcendentalism, even though it did have some dark edges, gave them that. Transcendentalism was overall a buoyant, uplifting movement that told people that nature is good and that you can find your true self there. So this was like the first countercultural rebellion against the more reserved, stoic culture of American society at the time. Even the sons and daughters of the Puritans occasionally wanted to have a good time, even if that good time only meant a walk in the woods. Well, we won't be taking any walks in the woods together, unfortunately, because of COVID. I wish we could. That would be the best way to study this class. But I hope that all your future sojourns out into nature prove to be more interesting and rewarding when you're done with this class. I really hope that this course changes you. It's that kind of class. It can. If you take it seriously, if you do the reading, if you trust the course and its material, and you give yourself over to it, this is the kind of class that can really have an effect on someone. I'm really excited to teach it. The last time I taught it, everybody loved it, and it really just was an exciting time. So I'm hoping to recreate that same enthusiasm again now, 2 years later in this class. That's it for my introductory video. I'll see you all on the first day of class, and I look forward to meeting you on Zoom.